Every game is literally emoting and fucking spawn.
What's your slap?
Foreman.
Like, are you serious? He said your DPS are throwing the game, but like, uh, dude, he played Brig out of voice chat and got 1 rally in 4 minutes, and then he's AFK in spawn. I'm sorry guys, I'm not playing this game if Farzen's AFK. Just report our support, and hopefully Blizzard fixes this game. I don't know. GG. Yo, what's going on today, guys? It's Sam or Samito. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is a video, again, I've been thinking about doing for a while. I've done 2 of these on the channel so far, kind of talking just about the state of Overwatch and, you know, where I think the game is and where it's going to go. And I think another one of these videos is due after 222 coming out and Roll Q coming out. I want to talk about my experience and where I think the game's going and what needs to change for the game to continue to improve. Before we get started on that, thank you guys so much for 80K. The Doom guide will come out later this week. I'm taking a break from streaming, mostly because I'm just super burned out, and I'll talk to you guys about that in a bit, about why I'm burned out. It kind of ties directly in with this video. But yeah, so thanks so much. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, and let's get into it. Let's start by talking about Overwatch in general and the 3 major problems that I think the game had before 222 came out that was really holding the game back, you know, GOATS meta, Brig, time frame, etc, etc. As most of us would agree, Overwatch is a great game that we fell in love with. There's not a game that's better optimized than this game, that looks as beautiful as this game, that, you know, runs as smoothly as this game, with as many characters that have awesome lore and backstory. Like, this game really is a masterpiece, and we should give Blizzard every ounce of credit for creating such a beautiful, well-polished game as Blizzard always does. I love this game and all the awesome characters and unique playstyles they all bring. I love the fast-paced assassination playstyle of Genji. I love the, you know, the power that Doomfist can bring with his backstory, and, you know, the rush of playing super aggressive as a DPS player. Of course, you know, that's why I picked my role. As I'm sure many of you guys did as well. The first one, which has kind of been solved, is, you know, the matches not being very balanced, okay? You could get like 3 or 4 damage players on your team at the same time, just locking 4 DPS out of voice chat, throwing the game, essentially, because this is a team-based game. You have to play it as a team, and a lot of players didn't want to play it as a team, and now with Roll Q, that issue has kind of been solved. I would say about 20 to 30% of games were just utterly a waste of time because you never got balanced games, and Overwatch was never being played how it was meant to be played due to the matchmaker not being efficient enough or sophisticated enough to, you know, consistently give you high quality matches. I would say that issue has pretty much been fixed. Like with Roll Q coming out, you're guaranteed 222, which means you won't have 4 DPS players. Although I do think MMR needs to get looked at for this. I think MMR should have been reset entirely because there's a big difference between being able to climb to a rank and being able to maintain that rank. I would say at this point that those 20% of the games that you would queue up into that were kind of auto losses because you have like 4 DPS players on your team, as Roll Q has successfully solved that. Now, the other big problem with the game, which I would say ruins just a lot of the experience in general, is the meta. And this is something that I think Blizzard needs to work on, and they need to reevaluate how they balance the game. Ever since Overwatch came out, there's been an introduction of many characters that, instead of players utilizing the abilities on that kit with their mechanical skill, right? Like, you have to have base mechanical skill, game sense, positioning, awareness to actually get value from the mechanics of that character. For example, McCree, you have to have really good aim, positioning, cooldown management. Pharah, you know, the interaction with Pharah versus other DPS usually could go either way. But the main requirement for that is that players have mechanical skill and great game sense about where to position, who to dive, and most importantly, really good aim in a first-person shooter game. A lot of the characters that have been introduced and made meta over the past 2 years completely allow you to bypass that, you know, knowledge and mechanics. Like, the kit does the work for the player, with abilities being really strong and not requiring good mechanics to outplay another player, right? While, you know, traditionally the opposite was true. Heroes like Brig, Moira, I would say Mercy, old Mercy for sure. I wouldn't really say current Mercy because now Mercy kind of relies on a lot of survivability, and Rez was just so OP back when it was instantaneous that it was just fight turning. So I kind of count Mercy in there, but specifically heroes like Brig and Moira, who Brig for a year was just left alone to just bypass, you know, the mechanics of other players. Like, it didn't matter if you were mechanically good. She, just by existing, was getting more value than half of the really high skill, high reward, high game sense DPS characters in the game. And that effectively destroyed high level play for a long time, you know, ushering in the GOATS meta. This is an issue with game balance that Blizzard absolutely needs to change. Like, this can never happen again. And to quote Jake from Twitter, Jake from Houston Outlaws, he essentially said that characters that, you know, do this, like the introductory level characters, which is fine if they're in the game, but they just cannot be more meta than the heroes that take high skill to get high reward from. If this happens, it essentially breaks the elo system, in which players are getting to higher ranks than they should be without actually having to get the game sense or mechanics to get to that rank. In other words, it's a cheat to the skill system, and if this happens consistently, it will just destroy play, having players who don't deserve this rank if they played any other character, and that ultimately is poor game balance. It destroys the competitive environment. If you look at the game from characters who initially came out, like Genji, who's incredibly weak now because of all the different changes in heroes like Moira, Brig, I guess Sombra as well, that have been added to the game. It's just he can't compete. And I think that does say a lot for what this game has changed into, right? Like Genji, which was one of the main reasons a lot of people wanted to play this game, is just not nearly as viable as he was before. He just gets clowned on by everything else. There's so much CC, like Mei Freeze getting buffed, you know, Sombra Hack being buffed. Every new character has a lot of CC or stuns or like insane damage potential just to keep up with the power creep of Blizzard just buffing everything in the game and not really listening to the pro community about what needs to be balanced and how. There was never enough indirect nerfs in the game. It was just like, we're just gonna buff the shit out of this thing and then hope it works out. And that's the main issue I see with the game now is, you know, no one wants to play tank because Orisa gets more value than any of the other tank picks in the game simply by sitting there and existing. And she by no means is an interactive kit. She's extremely boring, not fun to play with or against, and she doesn't take that much skill. It's just plop E, press left shift, and, you know, obviously there's more to the kit than that, but if you compare Orisa's kit to, say, Winston's or Reinhardt, who were the original tanks back in the day, like, it's astronomical how big the difference is between those characters and how one offers, like, a fun, healthy play style and the other just completely shuts it down. Heroes like that need to immediately get reworked, and it's okay if they, like, come out like that. I guess, you know, you could argue that. People make mistakes with game balance, like no one's perfect. But where Blizzard's at fault is that they never consistently patch out those characters. It just takes months on end. And this balance design is intentional on Blizzard's end. They do it on purpose to force metas, which is not healthy, and it clearly hasn't worked for the game because a lot of these characters that take no skill have just dominated the meta for over a year. That is something that just absolutely has to change. And a lot of DPS players like myself have been suffering from long queue times, which I'm okay with having as long as the matches are quality. But if the meta has heroes in it that allow players to bypass the skill gap, then there's no point in waiting because you're still going to have bad games at the end of the day anyway, since players don't really deserve the rank that they're in, since their heroes do the work for the player rather than the player doing the work with the kit and using the utility of the kit to actually do big brain things. Like, there's not like a skill ceiling that you have to hit to get max value from the kit. A good hero, for example, like that is Ana, where, you know, you have to have good mechanics, game sense, cooldown management, positioning to get maximum value from her kit. For example, ML7 is, you know, not comparable to probably, you know, a Master's Ana because he's so smart with his kit. But if Moira was meta, which she is, it wouldn't matter. You wouldn't need any of that game sense mechanics. You could have literally like a tenth of it and still climb. Stuff like that breaks the game and it has to stop. Blizzard, you have to stop buffing these characters that don't require mechanical skill or brain power. Make the players do the work. Don't let the kit carry the player. I think if this gets changed, DPS queue times actually will go down because more people would want to play support, more people would want to play tank, because let's be real, no one wants to play Orisa. No one wants to play Orisa. Very few people want to play Moira. They want to play heroes that really allow their mechanical skill to shine. These heroes don't do that. They're not fun, nor are they interactive. And the third issue, which Blizzard ultimately will have to address, is making competitive play competitive. Role queue was definitely a step in the right direction. However, like, Overwatch's ranked mode has been a casual mode for a very long time. Blizzard has to step up and enforce this game to be competitive, or at least for high-level play. I don't want to say, like, integrate some kind of third-party matchmaker to allow pro play to, you know, like, excel on the ladder, because that doesn't really change a lot of things for the rest of the game. But to me, like, especially in lower ranks, I see this all the time. If you're just out of voice chat playing the heroes you want to play, not playing like around your team or working with your team, I personally believe that doesn't belong in the competitive environment. There are a lot of players who want to actually improve and compete, and I totally get that a lot of people want to play this game casually, but to me, it's not that big of a deal to just jump in voice chat and talk to your team. Like, I think Blizzard should, one, force voice chat. A lot of people have been against that, for one. And they say, oh, well, I'll get harassed, or I just want to chill. You know, you can just mute your whole team if you really want to do that. But, you know, again, then some people might be like, well, what's the point of doing that? Everyone's just going to mute each other. I think if you just default people to be in voice, more people, or at least a good percentage of people, will at least give it the chance, right? And if 20% more people give it the chance, that could make a big difference in games. And actually encourage people by default to play this game competitively how it should be played. So forcing voice chat and at least getting people to communicate would be really, really essential to, you know, making sure that this game is played the proper way in the competitive environment, because nobody wants to have their time wasted, and that's what it feels like playing ranked with just one or two teammates who just simply don't care when they're playing. That destroys the entire game for everyone else. Now, the last thing that I think Blizzard would need to fix this game and get it in the right direction is SMS verification to play ranked. And what that would mean is, one, no more Smurfs throwing your all's games. Like, I'm somebody who's done a lot of unranked GMs, and I know that, you know, there are other ways to verify your phone, but in order to get top 500, you have to have phone verification, meaning that you can only have one account in top 500 unless you do this alternate route. This would, one, encourage a lot of players to only play on their main instead of going on Smurfs where they just don't care and they just go out of voice chat and throw, meaning that the competitive environment, sure, on Blizzard's end, it might not show as many unique viewers per month or whatever it is, however they measure the statistic, but it would definitely increase the quality of games, because no one would be like, if you have like some toxic, you know, idiot on your team throwing the game, jumping off the map, and you guys spam report them, it's going to be much harder for that player to actually get on another account. I mean, sure, they could do it, but Blizzard would be like, it would be easier for them to track it, etc., etc. I think this would be something really, really good for the game, on top of going free to play with that, so more unique players and individual people are actually coming to the game and playing the game, and you guys have less people throwing your games just on alts that they just don't care about, right? It would incentivize people to play on their mains, and people tend to try more on their mains, so I think that would be a really, really good thing, or something interesting to see. Ultimately, to wrap this up, I don't see Overwatch improving until Blizzard like re-evaluates how they balance their game, what kind of heroes they put in the game, and if they get these low skill characters, either rework them like to be better, like they did to Symmetra, or just, you know, they can never be meta. They should never dominate high play. If you want to play a very bare bones, simple kit, it cannot be as effective as the higher level kits and have as much reward at, you know, at the highest level of play than heroes that require skill. For example, Moira and Mercy, in my opinion, should never have been fundamentally better than Ana, which they are right now. I'm not saying Ana's kit should always be better in every situation, because every character is designed for specific situations. For example, Moira should be really good with brawl comps and close quarter maps. Right, that's where Moira should be good, where Ana can't play at a distance and throw nades from distance where she's safe. You know, that's where Moira should be good. However, how it stands right now is Moira is just better than Ana on every, like, no matter how you look at it, she's just better. The same could be said for Brig being better than DPS heroes before 222 and in the GOATS meta. It's just not worth queuing up on the ladder if you're just gonna have people who are exploiting, you know, kind of crazy heroes like out of voice chat. They just do the work for them, and they're not actually like that level of play, in my opinion. It's just a waste of time, and people feel like their time's wasted, and nobody likes that feeling. They want to improve. They want to play this game how it's meant to be played, and right now, if a casual ranked mode is not the way to do that. With that being said, 222 and roll queue helped a lot, but it's not quite where it needs to be. Well, guys, that's my State of Overwatch 3 video. I think this game has a long way to go as well, but we've taken some steps in the right direction, but Blizzard ultimately needs to next change how they balance characters and integrate characters into the game. That's the last big thing that we need to see change, and until that changes, I don't know if Overwatch is going to be back to the glory days. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think about the game? What do you think about roll queue? Do you think it helped the game? Do you think it made the game worse? Leave a comment down below. If you guys are new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate having you guys around. Much love, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.